Glory to Jesus Christ. I'm very glad to see you after Christmas break. Many things have happened. A lot of grace, a lot of blessings. So for this Christmas time, and we come back to usual life. Today we will start also very important topic. It's the catechetical or theological school of Alexandria. Why it's so important? Because Eastern spirituality, Eastern theology, Eastern liturgy was not born in one moment. It's big inheritance. And there are different sources of, different beginnings of this inheritance. And School of Alexandria, this place, and this place, it's wrong definition. This environment that for centuries very richly represented Christian life, Christian thoughts, Christian rights, enriched a lot Eastern Christian Church. And without, touch this topic, we won't be able to understand many things that we have in our spirituality, in our liturgy, and also in our theology. So I probably believe that we will dedicate 2 lessons to this, but we have to touch this topic and, go deeper for understand. If you understand, if you know the roots, you know what kind of fruits you can get from these roots. Okay, so Alexandria. This is the city in modern Egypt, but probably historically that Arabs came and got these lands, Northern Africa, very later. If I'm good with my memory, it's 600, 700 that was invasion from age of Northern Africa. 600 probably, yes. Before this territory was populated by different nations. The most oldest nation that we know, Egyptians, but not think about Arabs. Think about Copts, original population of Egypt. And of course, this territory became the part of empire of Alexander the Great. And this emperor, this great man, had interesting custom. In every new land that he added to his empire, he created city dedicated to himself with name Alexandria. And there are many Alexandrias in different parts of the world. Where? And one of them, it's Alexandria of Egypt. And from beginning, Alexandria of Egypt became very, very important center of life. Economical, political, cultural, intellectual. And it was very interesting place that also had, it was point of union. It was place where different cultures, different religions, different philosophical teaching met each other. Except, of course, original Egyptian population was very big Jewish diaspora in Egypt. Also were Greek population there, and many another nation. The center of life, social life, pulled many people there. And how we know also Alexandria entered in history like place where was incredibly big and rich library that was burned after. And like I said, many philosophical schools took Alexandria like place of their location. And it was a point of union between many philosophers, so we speak about intellectual life, and also many Eastern religions were present there. Of course, like I said, was very big and huge Jewish diaspora there. And if you remember the approach of apostles, they always, in the beginning, came to different synagogues to preach gospel there between Jews. And first church there, traditionally, first congregation, Christian congregation, was started, tradition say us, by Saint Mark. Saint Mark is the founder, creator of Christian community there, by tradition. And of course, you know, it was huge place with many people, with economy, with, you know, a lot of commercial there, but also very rich by intellectual life and religious life. Different nations lived in their neighborhoods, had their own places to worship. You know, in some way we could compare Alexandria with New York City, you know, a couple generations ago. It's a city of neighborhoods, and it's concentration of everything, money, knowledge, education, philosophy, religion, everything was there. And of course, Egypt is one of the oldest civilizations with all this great and incredible inheritance, also, you know, scientific and religious. When Christian congregation appeared there, very fast it became important because of place. And one approach to speak about theological or catechetical school of Alexandria, it say that it was found by Saint Mark from beginning. But it's more about tradition. In reality, I think, my point of view, that we have to connect appearance of this school with another person. It's Saint Panthenus the philosopher. This gentleman lived in 2nd century. In exactly he died in 200. But what happened? He was converted to Christianity from pagan religion, and we have deal now with generation of Christians that were not Jews but were pagans of different nations of Roman Empire. I lost this piece, but probably you know that after the death of Alexander the Great, his empire was divided in different parts. And Egypt, with capital in Alexandria, existed some time, but after all these territories entered in Roman Empire. So now we are in Roman Empire. Not anymore Jews, not anymore people of Israel, but pagans with this ancient Greek culture, Hellenos, and this was common culture not only for Greeks. I come back a little bit to Alexander the Great. Invasion of Alexander, it was not only about get cities, get richness, it also was invasion of Greek culture, of Greek inheritance. Every new found city or every got city by war in empire of Alexander the Great became center of Greek culture. And it's about sport, Olympic Games. It's about philosophy that was represented by different schools. It's about science. It's about science. Probably you know, if not, I could share with you that the teacher of Alexander the Great was Aristotle, the founder of modern science. And he asked his student Alexander to bring him from every his war event different kinds of animals, plants, elements of nature from new discovered places, because he was collector, and also he left after this the approach to create a system that is used until now in modern science. So Aristotle also was founder of science of logic that we have until now. An invasion of Alexander the Great, it was of course military invasion, but it was also invasion of Greek world. And here, with example of Panthenus, the philosopher, that is real founder of this school, we have example how it was in whole Roman Empire. The first generation of Christians, they were Israelites. But, and we discuss all this problem that happened in church because of this. That first Christians, they were very, very Old Testament Christians. They celebrated Sunday, resurrection of Christ, they accepted the coming of Messiah, but they continued to live according to the law of Moses. And you can discover this reading Acts of Apostles, how it was in first generation of the church. But second generation were not Jews, were Greeks by culture. I'm not about ethnicity. I'm about Hellenos, about Greeks by culture. They could be of different ethnicity, but they all were children of this great inheritance of ancient Greece, of this antique world. That in some way also became foundation of modern Western civilization. So they were formed in different culture. They had completely different intellectual formation, and they were less religious, because for many of them pagan religious was only tradition, but they were very intellectual, and many of them had philosophical formation from different schools. I can offer you many, many examples, many names, but it will take a lot. We will stay in these borders of School of Alexandria. Panthenus the philosopher, he was Stoic. I don't want to explain what does it mean to be Stoic. It's another philosophical school. If you would like to learn this, you can do this by yourself. The most famous representative of the school, except fondator, was Mark Aurelius, the Roman emperor. He belonged to the school. He was Stoic. And also Panthenus, the philosopher, he was Stoic. And what he started to do was religious congregation. Only understand how it happens. Was very big group of Christians. They lived like parish, was bishop, and bishop was like a parish priest, more, and he had some parochial vicars. They supported each other. They met each other for Sunday services, for feasts, for different events. And some of members of this congregation offered the idea, let's do Christian formation. Because we accept people in our congregation, so we have to explain them what is our faith and what exactly we believe. Because we don't do only rites, rituals, worships. It's only visible side. But everything that we do has some reason. And people that join us, they must understand. And also, we believe in Christ. We believe in one God. How we can go outside from our congregation and share our faith with this world? How we can explain to another people that live around us and what exactly we believe and why we believe in this? Think about this very deep idea, because inside of Israel it was easy. It was one conception of revelation of God, conception of Torah, Old Testament, New Testament, and gospel was shared in first generation of Christians always in the same environment, in the same, like a field, and it was conception of of Israel. But gospel went out of this, and church got new generation of Christians that didn't belong to this tradition. For them, the name Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, law didn't mean nothing. But they wanted to understand. Not only have experience, but understand their religious experience. And also for preach Christ. Christians of that generation could not come anymore in synagogue and say, you waited for Messiah, you know the prophecy, so Messiah came. No, because for pagans, for these Alinos, didn't exist any prophecies about coming of Messiah. They lived in different world, pagan world, that partly was explained, or also religion and cult was replaced with philosophy, with rational understanding of the world. What happened there in Alexandria? Something very, very important that we won't be able to open right now, but we will try to do this probably next time, and we'll pass to, we will do another step. With Parthenius the philosopher, he's Saint Parthenius the philosopher, that was pagan, that was philosopher, but accepted Christian faith. What he started with this school, with this environment, he started to rethink Christian faith through conception of philosophy, through vision of Greek world. So no anymore revelation of God and prophets and law of Moses, like unique way to understand the coming of Christ, but let's try to introduce in our faith different philosophical teachings and try to adapt them to our faith. They started to use philosophical terminology. They started to use different philosophical conceptions for first understand their faith and also to speak with people outside of their congregation. For example, my English is not perfect, sometimes it's very bad, but it's a unique way to communicate with you. You know, it's something common. I try to express myself in English, and in this way you understand me. Sometimes I do this bad, sometimes it's better, sometimes not so bad, it depends from different things. But I speak with you in your language. So now, if we speak about School of Alexandria, about this environment, it's also was try to speak with people in their own language. But it's not about Greek. It's about the vision of the world. It's about values of that world. It's about mentality. And it's about philosophy. For example, I think you agree with me that vision of the world of some person in US and vision of the world of some person in small tribe in Afghanistan, they are different. You know, they look on the same thing, but they see something different. They think about God, but they imagine something different. And for a person in US, the vision of the world is this, where we live. This terminology, these values, these conceptions, ideas, foundation of our nation, and another. For some person in small tribe in Afghanistan, in the middle of the desert, somewhere, the vision of world is different. Values, relationship, foundation of society. And I am speaking about this kind of language. People of Israel in first generation of the church had, it was like own religious bubble in which they lived. Revelation, prophets, waiting of Messiah. And was the language to speak with them about gospel, about Christ. Check Moses, check prophets, they all were about Christ. For Hellenos, for pagans that belong to this big Greek culture and inheritance, this language didn't have any meaning and any reason, because their culture, their vision of the world, their values were completely different. And what happened in Alexandria? In Alexandria happened this synthesis between revelation of God, between Christian theology, and also with philosophy, Greek philosophy. And also what happened in Alexandria is this transformation of Christianity from a very local cult of most poorest class in very full legit religion that could offer own philosophical vision of God, world, and humanity. But it didn't happen only with Parthenius. Another person that is connected with Church of Rome, Justin, St. Justin, he also has title the philosopher, Justin philosopher. Very, very interesting person if you would like to. He's not from Alexandria, but it's the same generation in another part of empire. his conversion in some way describes how it was in that generation. He was a philosopher. He was also vested like philosopher. He believed that he knew the truth, but after he met the truth, that it was Jesus. And for him, all this intellectual inheritance of ancient Greece, it was like preparation for meet the truth that is Christ. I can offer you one example. Imagine a mount, and the goal is to get to the top of the mount. And philosophy, okay, you can translate literally this word like love for wisdom, or love of wisdom. It's try by mind to understand meaning of my life, if we speak about moral life, the construction of the world, if we speak about cosmology, and the beginning of everything, if we think about God. By mind, from or some experience or studying of reality in front of us, come to beginning and understand everything by mind. And philosopher is someone who climbs very, very hard to the top of this mountain, doing mistakes, creating different conceptions, intellectual construction. But when he comes to the top, he meets a Christian. In that situation, it was a Jew Christian that already knew the truth because accepted Christ through his faith. And it's the same. Another comparison. We were in Christmas. First, who discovered Messiah that came in the world were shepherds. They came by intuition. Angels revealed them that Messiah is here. They came in the same night. They didn't have any knowledge, nothing. They were simple people. But this inspiration, but spiritual experience, they were brought to Jesus. And next day came another 3 persons. Very interesting. They studied by stars that Messiah must be born in this place and in that time. By mind, by knowledge, by studies, they made long trip from Babylonia to Judea for meet Christ. And this describes 2 ways: accepting to God through faith, through religious experience, and through mind. For example, I don't remember who, probably it was St. Basil, but don't take words from me, probably I'm wrong. Some of the fathers of the church say that Plato, he was like a Moses for pagans, for Greeks, because he brought them by intellect, by philosophy, to the idea of unique God, one God. So, and in Alexandria, all these 2 realities met each other and were united in one. Happened this synthesis between gospel and Greek world, and it happened there. So, next couple persons after a famous fondator, Panthenus, and also what I would like to say, in ancient Greek and in Roman Empire, many philosophical schools, they had own locations. For example, followers of Plato had own Lyceum, followers of Aristotle, they had own academy. All these names that we have, they are from the time. Different schools had different locations and different buildings, sometimes properties, it depends how rich they were, how many benefactors they had. For example, in case of Aristotle, like I said, Alexander the Great was his student, so he richly supported his teacher. With Plato it also was in some way, but they had own like colleges where teacher sometimes lived with students together studying the true philosophy. Sometimes they didn't live together, but they came for lessons and for some practices, because many philosophical schools were connected also with different Eastern religions, with different mysterious, with different, very often hidden and mystical practices. I don't want to enter in this environment, but it also was true. The school of Alexandria, like this catechetical center, also took this model of philosophical schools. They created own like environment. They used some property, some buildings for keep books there. It was not books like we think about them now, but different texts, halls to meet each other, you know, classes. But the idea also was from the Greek world, from these philosophical schools. So after Panthenus, school had also famous directors. One of them is Clement of Alexandria, another philosopher. Clement of Alexandria lived in these years. Do you see? 160, and he passed away 215. So he was next after Panthenus. And after him was another person, very, very important, that we will speak about him now, because this guy influenced whole church in West and East by his spiritual inheritance. It was correct me if I pronounce his name wrong, Origen. So he lived between this year, and he was the most productive principal and director of this school. Okay, about him. First, he left, or not that he left, because there was some problem with him. We know that he created more than 2,000 different theological rites, theological theses, theological books. You could imagine 2,000. He commented whole Bible, everything, every book. So his inheritance is textual criticism of Bible, because he was translator, he was interpretator, he was writer, he was preacher, he was ordained like a priest, and he was director of this catechetical school. He had students. It was like a college. Imagine some modern college with teacher and couple his helpers and people that decide, oh, I'm going today in this, I don't know, Plato school. I'm going in school of Aristotle. No, let's go in this Christian school. They also offer some teaching, they offer some vision. Let's listen what they will say to us, you know. So this school was open for local Christian congregation, but the door of the school also was open for people from outside, for share gospel with them in their own language, in language of Greek culture and Greek philosophy. So textual criticism, biblical exegesis, hermeneutics, homiletics rights, apologetics. He was defending Christians because we live in time of persecution, and he was son of martyrs, and he always also wanted to be martyr, but God didn't bless him. Some his rights are directed to defend Christians. For example, Christians were accused in different practices, and pagans didn't understand what Christians do during their meetings because it was closed. It required initiation. It was not open like now. For Eucharist, for readings, for studies, yes, but for sacraments, no, it was closed and hidden. And how we know, pagans and Roman authorities, they many times accused Christians in some crimes, in sacrifices of children, in sacrifices of animals, in cannibalism. Is it correct, cannibalism? Eating of human flesh?
Yes.
Many different things. And region also offered a few his rights to defend Christians, to explain about faith, about their life, that they're not criminals, that they don't sacrifice children, they don't eat their flesh and some other things, that they don't drink blood. But he also had own cosmology, because he was about philosophy. He was Christian, he was from Christian family, but he belonged to this, we say, Alinos Greek world, and he was student of famous Ammonius Sax. And another student that not probably, but we know that he was his peer in the same class, was, I'm afraid to pronounce wrongly the name in English, Plotinus. Plotinus, if you know something about philosophy, if you studied this, so Plotinus, it's fondator or creator, or better say inspirator of Neoplatonism. He rediscovered for antique world, for Roman Empire, the teaching and philosophy of Plato, and he was very known. I would like to say you that many of you don't have nothing common with philosophy, but it's so important because of this that we're speaking now, that Catholic, for example, education of I'm about clergy, not about Catholic schools. I'm about formation of clergy. Usually it begins with 2 years of philosophy. And after 2 years of philosophy, student, seminarian, starts to study theology. And only after 2 years of philosophy, a student has another 4 years of, after 2 years of philosophy, a student has 4 years of theology. Philosophy is foundation for studying theology. Why? Because all conceptions, all terminology, all intellectual constructions, all ideas that we use to express our faith from that time, we took from philosophy. 2 years of philosophy after 4 years of theology. Do you remember when I made you suffer speaking about Trinity, homoousios, consubstantial? All this terminology is from philosophy, from philosophical environment. And all dogmas are built on this inheritance. From that time, nothing changed. You really cannot understand 100% theology if you don't have some minimum philosophical knowledge about philosophy, about ideas of ancient Greece and conceptions of ancient Greece. Do you understand me? And beginning of this is here, also in Alexandria, in other parts of empire, but also in Alexandria, that was very important center of this union and synthesis between Greek inheritance. I'm not speaking about ethnicity, I'm speaking about culture in very general meaning, and gospel and general revelation of God. Union happened in the second generation, when pagans and Greeks started to join the church, when they started to accept faith in Christ, and they brought inside of church environment this vision of the world and this inheritance. So, Origen, that was probably the most productive, biblical commentator. He studied in philosophical school, and his peer from the same school was founder of this very important direction in philosophy, like Neoplatonism. Of course, he brought this inheritance in his theology, for example, allegory, that I would like that we will speak about this. I don't know if we have time today, probably no. We will speak about this next time. But allegory, it was more used in Alexandria than in some other places of Christian life. Why? If you read the writings of Plato, you will see that Plato expresses his philosophy, knowledge about real world of ideas, about invisible reality. He expresses this using allegories. The writings of philosopher Plato, they are full of allegories. Of course, allegory is not only inheritance of Greek world. Bible, but by itself, offers this way to understand reality. Christ, how many parables, said Christ? Allegories used also by St. Paul, by other writers. We will speak about this. But Christians that came from this Greek inheritance, Greek culture, they saw in this something common. Let's see. Our philosophers, they try to speak with us about spiritual world using allegories. And Christ did the same. What does it mean? That there is something common between us. We live in material world, and spiritual world is hidden from us, and our goal to discover this, to open this for us. For example, Origen, that like I said, he commented whole entire Bible, everything, every book. He created this this idea that he created. So not only him, we could discuss about this, but like human being has three levels of existence. It's body, soul, and mind. And soul is like psychics, body, soul, mind. The same with Holy Bible. We can understand real revelation of God by three ways. First is lateral, and lateral level is connected with our bodies. It's primitive, it's simple, it's on the table. Next level is moral level, and it's equal to a soul in human being, to psychics. What does it mean, moral? It means reading text, I have to discover what I have to do with this knowledge, how I have to direct my life, my will. It's about action, about awareness. If I know this, how I can live with this. And third meaning that is on the level of mind, intellect, is allegory, or it's also spiritual meaning, named by Origen. It's hidden meaning that is not on the table, that we have to discover that through lateral understanding, and after through moral knowledge, we have to enter in spiritual experience. Do you remember our first lessons? We reflected that we experience God and try to express our experience through our liturgy. That our liturgy is not only, some game that we discuss that we will play these rules. No, it's something spiritual that we experience through material, and it's also something spiritual that we express through material. And this is liturgy. Here, with Holy Gospel and with our nature, we have body, we have soul, psychics, and we have mind, intellect. And the same with God and with Holy Bible. Revelation of God has this simple level that is connected with our bodies. Lateral meaning, what happened? Christ went, Christ came, Christ did, whatever. Or the same with Old Testament. But after accepting this, reflecting on this, I have to say what I have to do with this. I have to enter in action. So if this is true, if God said this, I have to live according to this. And practicing this, living this, I discover on level of mind, intellect, on level of allegory, hidden meaning, spiritual reality, some spiritual experience that is behind of all of this. An allegory for Origen was the most high level of understanding of Holy Scripture. If you read his writings, Many of them were destroyed because of some problem that I will mention in a couple of minutes. But many of them are survived, and we have them. If you read his sermons based on Bible, if you read his comments based on Bible, different books, you will see how deep is this allegorical vision of revelation of God. That real knowledge is something that we have to discover. And here, Origen is also very connected with his philosophical inheritance. You know this parable of Plato about cave and prisoners of the cave that live in darkness, and their unique picture of the world is shadows created by light that little bit enter in cave, and you know, like project shadows on the wall of this cave, and they live in this darkness. And one of them left cave by miracle and saw the real world. It's not Christian, it's Greek philosophy, it's Plato, his parable. And after he went back in this cave, because with knowledge of truth, with knowledge and experience of real light, real world, he could not live. I cannot live here if my brothers, my sister live in darkness. They don't know about reality, how it really is. And he came back in this cave for explain them, for make them, how does it say, help them exit outside. But of course, you know, he was considered like a crazy. What are you saying to us? We all our life live in this cave. We see these shadows on walls. So this is reality. And you speak about some sun, some light. It doesn't exist. You're crazy. For Plato, this one that came back in cave was philosopher. Someone who got the true, real understanding of world, of things, of reasons. And philosopher had to explain, discuss, help to enough. You cannot, philosopher cannot open eyes. Philosopher could show the direction, how to exit from cave and achieve the light. Help and direct. But everyone has to do this by himself. And this was Plato and his philosophy. And now you can understand when Christians, pagans, knew about Christ, about gospel, about salvation, about heaven, and they applied this inheritance on their faith. They said, listen, this one that came in the cave is Christ. He is light that came in darkness of our lives for share with us this light. He brought us salvation. And philosophy for them, it was like a prophecy about Messiah for people of Israel. Do you understand me? They didn't know the prophecy. It was not their world. But like prophecy told about Messiah, the same for Christians of this generation, for Origen, for example, you know, all this Greek philosophy, all these teachings, all this inheritance was like preparation for really meet God. And allegory that was so richly used by Plato was realized in the best way in the rites of Origen, like third director of Catechetical School of Alexandria. I will say a couple of things about him, and we will continue with allegory next time, and we will stay with School of Alexandria. But I have to say, sorry, we'll take a couple of minutes of your time, was not so good with him. He was great, and many fathers of the church in East and in West, they were inspired by the region a lot, incredibly. The fathers of Cappadocia, also father of the church in West. I cannot remember the name now. Who was from Milano? Ambrogio di Milano. Is it correct? Is it correct in English? Ambrogio. Do you know this name? Ambrosius. Ambrose. Yes. Could you say one more time? Ambrose. If you will read his comments to Bible, and you know the rights of origin, you will notice that he takes everything from there. Almost 80%. He's so inspired that he doesn't want to offer nothing from him. He takes almost everything from origin. But Origen lived in the time when Christian doctrine still was not formed. Didn't exist any dogma about Christ. I remind you that the First Ecumenical Council is 318, and he passed away in 253. So his vision of Trinity was wrong, because he believed, and also he created his conception of Trinity that was very similar with a conception of God of Plato and of Plotinus, only with Christian ideas. And according to him, Son was inferior to Father, and Spirit was inferior to Son. And there is a word that I'm wrong to. I'm a little bit scary to pronounce it wrong. It's subordinationism, something like this.
Subordination.
Thank you so much. Subordination, but also there is terminology, specific, theological terminology for this kind of heresies. That Father is superior than Son is more superior than Holy Spirit. And Son is like expression of Father, and Spirit is like expression of Son. And if you study philosophy of Plato or philosophy of Plotinus, you will see that the idea of God is very similar. That the one is revealing himself in nous, mind, and mind in spirit, but it's not our topic. So it was his first mistake, that he didn't have right conception of Trinity. But Father, Son, and Holy Spirit were in subordination to each other. And it was condemned. But we really cannot judge him, because it was his first try to create some Christian conception of Trinity. The conception of Trinity appeared later. So he could not compare his teaching with some another teaching, because nothing existed. It was beginning of theology. Another his mistake is pre-existence of the souls. If you have a couple of minutes, I will say it's also important, and I think that he also took this from philosophy, and most of all from this mystical practices that were present also in some philosophical schools. The same ideas you can find in modern Kabbalah if you would like to discover this for you. I don't advise you, but in every case. He had teaching that God, before created material world, in the beginning, everything was spiritual. And in the beginning, God created it's like spiritual intelligence, spiritual beings. There is Greek word. Psyche. Psyche is spirits. Psyche in Greek is spirit, or soul also. And was God and was the spiritual beings, spiritual intelligences. And some of them like cooled off in love for God, he said. What does it mean? That they directed their will in opposite side from God. They made far from him. And because of this was created material world. And his teaching is interesting. It's not Christian teaching, but I remind you, didn't exist any dogma before 318. So his teaching was this, that the love cooled off for God, and they get far this psyche, these souls, the spirits from God. And there are three categories of them. First was love diminished the most, and they became demons. Second category, and their love diminished moderately, and this is where human souls. And third category, that their love diminished the least, and they became angels. And because of this free will of these spirits was created material world. Material world is like consequence of their free choice to being distant from God. And how far they were from, they got from God, they accepted the incarnations. So the most terrible distance from God, we have demons. The midway, we are humans, and more close to God, angels. But in the beginning, they all were spirits. It's only because of their free choice to cut off with God, or reduce their life, a love with God, they became, they started their new lives, and all this world was created like consequence of this free choice. The source of this teaching is not from Bible. It's another story. But Origen, it was his cosmology, his vision. He believed that souls existed before we say incarnation, before be born from a mother, like child. The beginning of human being, not in the womb of a mother, but the soul pre-existed before in the spiritual world and came in somebody because of. What happened? In 543, he passed away, 253. In 543, Emperor Justinian I condemned Origen as heretic and ordered to burn all his writings that they could find in empire. And there were many, of course. The Council of Constantinople, Second Council of Constantinople, 553, condemned some teachings of Origen. Not all Origen, but some teachings that were wrong. And one of them was, of course, pre-existence of the souls and subordination. and some another. And we have what we have. Many rights. This guy left incredible inheritance. Incredible inheritance. But many of his rights didn't achieve us because were burned in 500 by Emperor Justinian I, and after by decision of Second Council of Constantinople. But some of them survived. Some of them we have, and what we have, it's a lot. But only with this knowledge we could imagine how much he left to us. Of course, he made some mistakes, but like I said, my point of view that every his wrong decision was offered, of every his wrong teaching was offered before First Ecumenical Council. Church didn't have any dogma, any official teaching. So we are in the beginning. We're really in the beginning of Christian theology here with Origen. But he had mistakes, but except of this, he left incredible spiritual inheritance, and most of all because of his comments of Bible. That very, very allegorical. So in this moment we stop, and next time we will speak about allegory generally, in Bible also, not only from philosophers. And we will continue our discussion about School of Alexandria. Thank you for attention, and sorry for my English today. I really could not be to concentrate today. Something brings my thoughts away, so sorry. Glory to Jesus Christ.